Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned, where we empower you to live the life that calls to you in the wee hours of the night. I'm Gina Meyer-Vincent, your host, and I'm so excited to introduce you today to the lovely Vicki Noethling. She is a speaker, and that's why she's here. Well, multiple reasons, but a speaker, trainer, and coach focusing on public speaking and leadership. She also has an anti-aging wellness business, which complements her public speaking business well. Helping entrepreneurs, especially women, find their voice is a passion, something I'm passionate about too. She is a best-selling author and host of the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. Welcome, Vicki. I'm so happy to have you with me today. You are my sunshine, as I already have told you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on. We had such a great conversation the last time we talked that I just was looking so forward to this. And I appreciate the opportunity for me to share some of the things that I do to help people gain their confidence.
Yes. And I love this topic for so many reasons. I just want to say, if you haven't listened, there's a podcast with Michelle Schmidt where we discuss yoga and the third chakra, which is our voice, and how after COVID, many women and men, but many women are suffering with an imbalance there in that energy center. And so today it's really exciting to come at it from a different angle about being able to find our voice, whether it's on stage, behind the camera, with a mic attached to you, with a mic sitting in front of you, whatever that is. Because for me, when we are authentic, we can speak from our heart. We know when to speak and when to be silent, because maybe it's not for the person who's in your presence. It's not worth using your energy. And I know that sounds mean, but from a yoga background, it's not mean. It's just knowing when to speak and when not to. So, Vicki, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started on this journey? Because, well, I'll give you a tidbit. I don't know if I told you this when we met, but in college, it was mandatory to take so many English classes. The beginning had to be in like literature and business writing. And then once you satisfied that, you could go into public speaking. So that's what I did, because I was like, it's so much more fun for me to research something and then tell you what I learned than sitting back then, because I am old enough to have to sit at a typewriter. And I was not very good at typing, so it was a lot of whiteout.
So much we have in common, so much.
And so for me, I was like, oh, public speaking, oh, this is fabulous. But tell me, how was that journey for you? Because I think we all come from different ways and different experiences. And I always find it fun to know, how did this come about for you?
Wow. I think that I could go way back. And I'm from a large family, so there are 7 of us, and I'm the second to the oldest. Woo! And so in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm an old soul because I had to take care of the kiddos after me kind of thing. And I have a youngest brother who's 20 years younger than me, and I'm his godmother. But when you have that many people, and we were so fortunate, we always had a team. There was always somebody to hang with. And then I had a huge extended family. So I would go every Saturday to my grandmother's, my mom's mom, and they had a farm. And we had like 25 or 30 of us there for Sunday dinner.
I mean, can you imagine cleaning up and cooking, prepping?
Well, you had to, as a girl too, you had to help with the prep. You had to help with the cleanup. We had the dining room was for the adults and the kitchen was for the kids. And you had to always kind of vie for being able to say something, and people were always talking over each other and all that kind of things. And so some of that kind of carried over into adulthood, that you either were silent because you didn't think you had anything to contribute, or you were kind of told that you needed to just be silent, or you were kind of rude by talking over people. And so as time went on, and as I didn't go to college because we couldn't afford that. So I went to business school and I did some modeling to pay for that. And then I went into an accounting firm to be a secretary. So I was the lowest person on the totem pole. And therefore, that self-doubt that I had anything to contribute ever, even when I went out with the group, I was always kind of the quiet one, the shy one. And there was a lack of confidence. And that continued even as and I was that whiteout queen, my dear. In accounting, you have to do 30 and 40 page documents that have to be perfect. And if you make a mistake, and whiteout wasn't allowed in some cases. So you had to start over. So in the early 80s, the computer was introduced in that accounting firm, and I raised my hand. And that was the first evolution, I think, of who I am today, because I thought, what the heck? It can't be any worse than what I'm doing now. And I was a whiz at shorthand, but I could see that shorthand was not going to stick around once this computer took off.
Right.
And so I just raised my hand continually. And so through my early 30s and getting married and starting to have kids at my late 30s, mid 30s, I guess, I realized that now I needed to set example for my two daughters. And I needed to take chances, and I needed to contribute to our livelihood because I married a teacher, and well, we know where that money is.
Well, they're underpaid, and undervalued very much in our country.
Exactly. And it was highlighted that, I just needed to do and take chances. And so I got into a large company at my, I guess I was 34 and had just had my second child. And I worked for the head group, the CEO and the CIO, and they took a liking to me and saw something that I didn't see. And I think they saw that go-getter and it wasn't because I was trying to achieve the CEO or trying to run the department. I just knew that I had to work harder than everybody else because everybody else was smarter than me or better than me.
I think that also being the second child of 7 makes you work hard.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, my husband's an only child and he works hard. But I think when you are the oldest, in that oldest tier with siblings underneath you, you just take on, I think it's natural for that child to take on responsibilities.
Oh, absolutely.
Far beyond what my husband would have been taken on as an only child. And again, I'm not knocking anybody. It's just the experiences that we have. So I'm guessing that they saw that you get stuff. I almost said you get shit done, but you get stuff done. You know what I mean? Like my mom was always like, "Do you have to curse on your show?" I really, but you get anything, whatever needs to be done. I'm sure you're that. I just have a sense that that's who you are, and they knew that whatever they put in front of you, you would figure out a way how to.
And it's interesting. Growing up, we had what I think is the beginning stages of me becoming a really good project manager. We had a list on the fridge of the jobs that we had to do and when they had to be done. And we had to, scratch off whenever we did it. And so for me, having lists was always just second nature. And then project management, being organized like that, really just made sense. It made me feel comfortable. But that's also where this whole public speaking piece became really apparent. To be a great project lead, you need to be able to communicate on multiple levels. And so that was something that I knew that I had to continue to work on. I couldn't just be peer to peer and I didn't feel, again, there was that confidence that was still not built there yet, that I didn't feel that I could boss people around too much, but I was all of a sudden put in that position of being a manager or supervisor of 9 people. So I went to Toastmasters and got a tremendous education, support, and the ability for me to grow. I did self-development tapes from the time I was 20, cassette tapes, people.
Right. I know what they are. I'd listen to my dad. At first I was like, why do you need this? Then he's like, I went to college and they were talking about the books that my dad was listening to. And I was like, okay, I need to borrow those when I come home. Yeah. So I remember cassette tapes. Yes.
So I was always into personal development because, again, I didn't go to college and I was trying to compete with people with bachelor's and master's. And so in that, though, I learned style of speaking and I understood the ability to be silent and observe people. And I think all of those things help you to be a better speaker. A lot of times you'll have speakers that will come and they love the sound of their voice and they talk, but you don't get as much out of that because it's not a conversation. It is them talking to hear their sound of their voice. And even if you do reply or say something, they're just sitting thinking what they're going to say next and really not caring if it connects with what you just said. Or the best is some of the managers I've had in the past where I would say something and then about 5 minutes later, they would say the same thing as if it was the first time it was ever mentioned in the room. And
you're like, is there a delay in here? Am I in a different time zone? Yes, that is always funny. For me, it's always my husband. He's like, yeah. And so I had this idea and you're like, okay. I think it was my idea. Now it's in your voice, but okay. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, whatever. Well, you learn that too as a great manager to make it their idea. And that's always good.
Or to stay in a marriage, right? Yes.
That is true. That is true. 44 years later, yes, I can say that is true. But the thing that I saw over the years is that as I grew more confident and comfortable speaking, I could share it with others. And I got so much more out of seeing other people grow in that confidence than I ever felt myself. And it was like, I guess that mom instinct that I have, that I just love to help people find their voice. Yeah. And I work with the kids as well as adults, because there's ideas and great things going on in between those 2 ears. And some people just never let them out.
Right.
And that's such a shame. Such a shame.
I agree with you. And that's why I'm excited to have this conversation with you, because I think that oftentimes what I see is we're asked to be something other than who we are. Yeah. And when that happens, we tend to not feel comfortable speaking because it's not who we are. And if you can tap into your authenticity, which is how I believe you came to that confidence that you're speaking of, is like, oh, hey, I do have these wonderful gifts. Then we can put the voice behind it. And I think with your podcast, I would say you might agree with me. Wink, wink, no. But when we have our voice in a show or a video that we put out or whatever it might be, a book, so forth, there are always going to be people who come at us and don't like what we said at the time or how we said it, right? I'm a mother of 2. I could say the same thing and my husband repeats me and the kids are like, oh yeah, no, Mom, you say it so, that's not what you said. You say it the wrong way, and they get offended. But my husband says the same exact thing. And I'm like sitting there going, We should have, I said, we should have a Ring doorbell with the cameras in the house so that I could get this on video, because am I the only person out of the four of us seeing this, But I think it's so important to understand that, I think with the confidence that you were building or polishing, let's say, because I think it was always within you, but it was refining it and letting it shine, letting people see it the way you are feeling it, that then it's okay to be, I'm going to use the word vulnerable, so if you want to give that a voice, because that's something I like to talk about in Exquisitely Aligned, because as we become more and more who we were born to be, we are being a little bit vulnerable because we're stepping outside of that, like, oh no, everybody should look like this, sound like this, walk like this, wear this color lip gloss. You know what I'm saying? A woman my age should be, and I used to say, well, no, that doesn't work for me, but
Exactly.
So if you can speak to vulnerability and how maybe it plays for you and your clients both, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. As you were talking about that, it just made me think about one of the best ways I have been able to make a difference is allowing that vulnerability. I have always, I am not trying to please everyone. I used to try to please everyone, but I'm not trying to please everyone. And I don't expect that everything that I say will resonate with every person that hears me speak. But that's okay. All I really care about is is there one person that what I say has helped them, and one person that, here's my story. I had lost 2 children in miscarriage, and I talked about it because that was part of my healing. That was part of my grieving. But there were so many people that were surprised that I would even mention that I had miscarriages. And it's like, but why? I need to, if there's something that I could tell someone about the experience that I had, that I went through, especially with the second one, that would help them as they're going through this.
Exactly.
That's what I need. And my cousin, she would make fun of me because I would just strike up conversations with people, and I would find out all these things about them in a short matter of time. And it was just because I was interested. I cared. And if you share about you, people will be more open to share about themselves. So when you tell your stories, when you're trying to talk about what you do or what you service you have or what you product you have, you really need to be vulnerable. You need to be authentic, and that's where you can reach people and be okay to be uncomfortable in telling that story, because that gives someone else permission to be uncomfortable telling theirs.
Yeah, we create this safe space, and I'm laughing because you are my sunshine, but in so many ways, it's like you're my long lost soul sister, but with the blonde, with the light eyes, and the sunshine outside her window. But my family always laughs because I used to teach yoga. Well, we love to travel, and in our travels in other countries, even in this country, but I was teaching yoga for different resorts in foreign countries, and I'd have students, and class would be an hour, and then my family would be like, where were you? We were looking for you. Oh, well, after class I had X amount of people stay, and we had conversations, and and sometimes my family would walk up and they'd be like, too much information. Why is this woman or this man telling mom that? And then the people would be like, wow, I never told anybody that. But it's true, when we appear authentically, or who we are, what I call exquisitely aligned, when we align with our exquisiteness, because I believe we're all born that way, looking across at the camera at you, I see your exquisiteness, and I love the way you appear and give a voice to that. And I think that the more of us who can do that, and I think I want to say, it's a little bit of the feminine energy. A man can do it as well
Very true.
with his nurturing feminine energy.
Mhm.
That we create this safe space. And kudos to you about the miscarriages. I have a dear friend from many years ago who had one, and I was the only person she spoke to about it.
Yeah.
And I was, in even some of the stuff she shared, I said, well, what did your husband say? Well, I haven't talked to him about this. Like, I can't. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is like, I'm happy you're confident and comfortable and find peace in sharing with me. But like, there are some of these things or these choices or whatever, should be involve him.
Right.
So it was very eye-opening to me. I was an adult at the time already, and I was like, wait a minute, if this is happening with somebody I know really well, this must be happening all over the place, rampantly. And I think that when my husband was ill and fighting for his life, he didn't want anybody to know. And I told everybody because, I'd be like, you would say, oh, Gina, how can I help you? And I'm like, okay, well, if you're prayerful or energetic, if you could send us good vibes or say a prayer, that would be great. Not just for him, but for the two kids and I, because I'm a little tired, I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little, all the different emotions. And I think that when you can give that voice to what it feels like to have this beautiful baby growing inside, and then all of a sudden this passing, and I can't even put the words to it because it's out of my realm, but I'm so happy that you were able to do that. So I have a question for you. As you did that, did other women nod their head with a tear in their eye and say,
oh yeah,
I lost, yeah.
And people that, never told anyone too. And
Exactly.
I remember, and again, going way back, my mom's dad, I love my grandfather. And he had fallen down the stairs at 72.
Oh, God.
And it was a very steep set of stairs to the basement and concrete at the bottom. And so he broke ribs.
Ooh.
He went into the hospital at 72 with broken ribs. It's like, well, there's not much that we can do. We're just going to send you home. They sent him home, and I saw him one day, and then the next day he was gone.
Oh,
so he
man.
they had not done any x-rays or anything because it's just broken ribs, and they sent him home, and he had a broken rib that pierced and had a 12-inch blood clot that killed him.
Oh, my God.
So I was 12.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I couldn't believe that he was gone. And so it came time for the funeral and the viewing and such. And I wanted to go to say goodbye. Yeah. And my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and all said, no, you shouldn't go.
Right.
Because they knew that I was upset, but they also didn't understand that I needed to go.
Right.
And
closure too, right?
Right. So I had a very wise, they always say, what is there a teacher that had impact? My 7th grade teacher said to me, tell your story. And there just happened to be a contest coming in. She said, tell your story. And it was for, I don't know, the Daughters of American Revolution, or think, not a story you think you would tell for this group of things. But I wrote my story and I won.
Of course.
But it was in writing that story about this man that was so impactful to my life. It was healing for me.
Absolutely.
And so I think part of what I do with the youth and finding their voice is because in that first year when I started to offer training for them, these kids that are in 7th and 8th grade were telling me stories of things that happened in their lives that even in my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine dealing with at that age.
Such a young age, yeah.
Parents deported, being brothers in jail, brothers dying, sisters, whatever. And they felt safe enough,
Yes.
trusting enough in me to tell me that story, but sharing it with the class for the first time ever. And the teachers all of a sudden had a different view of that person.
Yes, exactly.
So here the teachers might have think this kid has a chip on their shoulder, or they're bad, but, or they're not worth the time. And now all of a sudden you see, okay, this is what this person's going through at this age, and they can't talk to their family because they don't know how.
Right.
And so by giving them their voice, there's that stairway to becoming different and better and dealing with what they have.
And being understood, like you said, and being seen for what they're going through. And there was one other point that I was going to say, connecting. That's I think you and I are both connectors, the way you talk about people telling you, right? And so I think that so many times people leave a room, right? They're brought together, whether it be the 7th, 8th grade classroom, and they don't realize how many things they have in common because they're learning whatever they call it today, I don't think they call it social studies, but whatever, math and reading
Those
and
core
writing.
classes, right?
Right. Your core things, and you have to be quiet. You have to sit still. My daughter loves to dance. So for her to sit still, it's very difficult. As you can see, I'm a part Italian, so I have to talk with my hands. Right. When I had my immobilizer on for my new shoulder, it was very difficult. I said,
I'll bet you.
Because I can't talk with just one hand. I need both. Right. Yeah. So, but, finding those connections that sometimes lead to long friendships. I mean, lifetime friendships where you are in a safe space where, like maybe a woman who said, I had a miscarriage or I had more than one as well. And I never was able to talk about it. Thank you for sharing, I think that, for me, I almost wish there was a class in school, like the way you're working, right, with these students, to allow them to find their voice. And I think there are some now. I know that the deck of cards that we'll do in a little bit before we wrap up, I have a teacher in New York using them in 3rd and 4th graders to help them communicate emotions. And I was like honored when she told me what she's doing she's like, these are fun. I'm actually bringing them to the school. And I was like, oh, okay. And using them with students, I was like, even better. But being able to do that, and I mean, what a great gift for you becoming who you are, owning it, being vulnerable, giving it a voice, and then sharing it. Because so kudos and thank you, Vicki, because it's people like you who make the world just even sweeter and more magical place, in my opinion. And I'm sure it wasn't the easiest thing for you to find that voice quickly.
No.
But I'm glad you did the work. I'm glad you moved through it because it's amazing. I know I had a few more questions I wanted to add. Well, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I just wanted to add one other thing. One of the services that I offer in my coaching is something that I also do with the students, and it is to evaluate their talk. And it's something that when we go back to being vulnerable and authentic, for these kids, a lot of times there's no one that gives them even the 4 minutes to listen to them uninterrupting and so intently that I can tell them how I felt from what they said, and not only things that they didn't do well, but also what they did well and why. But that why is the important thing. Why what they didn't work so well or didn't resonate, and how you could do it differently to make a difference in that response, and how the tone that you use will make that message be heard or understood the way you had hoped it would be understood, or could be misunderstood. And so that appreciation that somebody would listen to them for 3 minutes and give that evaluation of what they did is so impactful. And it gives them hope that other people will want to hear their voice.
Yes.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and so that's why, I added that to the service that I do for adults too, because I think sometimes they don't think that their stories are worth hearing.
Right. And I think it's because of the 4-letter word I tell my children I don't want to hear, which is busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you need, Mom? I'm busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, do you have someone on the operating table? No. Okay. Is the house on fire? No. Then you're really not that busy. You can stop what you're doing for 2 minutes and we can have a conversation. Or tell me when, how many minutes do you need before we can talk, And I think if we can give each other in our homes, in the classroom, with our coaching clients, just in the office, wherever, that ability to say, I'm in the midst of whatever you're working on. I probably need 10 minutes. May I have 10 minutes? And then you have my full undivided attention without me scrolling.
I was just going to say that. One of the things that I have to work really hard with the kids is to put their devices down and look and really get comfortable. They are uncomfortable, and adults as well, but looking at people.
Yes. And that is when I love the fact that you added adults as well, because I see it, you know.
And it really, what you teach the kids is, if you can't look at me, even if it isn't this way, it makes you seem that you're not sincere.
Correct.
That you're holding back. And I need for you to show me that you are all in, that you believe what you're saying, that you're being sincere, that you're not just giving me a bunch of crap.
Right, exactly. No, I had to have the same conversation with my kids. When Mark was ill, it was about a good 2 solid years of, 9 months, 9 months, 8.5, whatever it was, of dialysis, then a transplant, me living in Florida with him at Mayo Clinic for a month till he was approved to leave, me coming home, still trying to help him. And, I was like a zombie, like a robot, just going through who needs to be dropped off here, picked up there, daddy's at dialysis, Sonia's at preschool, Kai's at kindergarten. Okay. And it was just utter craziness. So I feel like I lost a good 1.5 years, 2 years of I want to say grooming or raising my children. And although they were, in preschool, kindergarten, they were still learning, but it was like, hey, we really need to catch up on this eye contact thing. You're now, plus my son is super tall. He's 6'4". We hope he's finished growing, because otherwise he's not going to fit in our cars. But, he fits in the house, but one of the cars, it's like a little, we opened the sunroof for him.
Like a giraffe out the window.
Yes, exactly. And then our daughter is petite. So at the time she could get away with a lot of things because people assumed she was younger than she was. But my son growing so quickly, people thought he was 3-4 years older than he was. And they're like, why isn't he giving me eye contact? But it is, I try to tell the kids, not now, they get it now, but people make assumptions, right? We have 7 seconds to make an impression. And sometimes we don't even open our mouth. It's just the way we walk in, or appear as somebody, maybe the teacher walks into the classroom, or we walk into a boardroom for a presentation.
Or an elevator.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. I mean, it's everywhere. It's the grocery store, it's the gym, and people make an assumption. I always hope that by my red lipstick, they know that I'm fun. I'm always ready to do fun, but I know it's also a turnoff for some people, and that's okay too, because then I know they're probably not fun and we're probably not going to hang out, But it is true that eye contact, being able to share, being able to be vulnerable, and come from a place of, this is my story. And I think the more people that are able to work with you and do the things where they're able to express their story, the better everything is. Like the more confident they become, the more connected they become. I was speaking with somebody last month, and they were saying, since COVID and I'm in a new place,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time, like, connecting with people. I haven't been going out the way I used to prior to COVID. And so there is this, like a bit of intimidation to come back out. And especially if you're new to an area, new to a city, or like us moving across the country, but yeah, so kudos again, because that's phenomenal.
I think that's one of the elevator thing was one of my practices that I did as I was trying to become more confident. It was, okay, if I get in an elevator, I have to say hello and talk to somebody, whether they want to talk or not. I just have to be the first to break the ice. And, after you do it a while, and if somebody smiles after it, or you get, sometimes I've gotten to be like, oh, I hate that you're getting off now because we're having a great conversation.
Like, can I have your number? Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I always acknowledge. So having gone to college in Manhattan and working in Manhattan in these super, multiple floor offices, my husband's like, who are you talking to? But I always enter an elevator or anything, a lobby. Hi. My husband's like, do you know them? No, but I will in a few minutes,
Exactly. Give me a minute.
Yeah. Give me about 60 seconds and I'll tell you their life story, but, I feel like people need to be seen. Yeah. And people should be acknowledged that there's another human being in front of me. Like, why wouldn't I say hello?
Exactly.
I mean, I say hello to the dogs that come up to me too, but, the lizards and snakes, not so much. I'm usually running in the opposite direction. But I feel like when we walk this earth and acknowledge that there is another like exquisite human being standing in front of us, whether it be a baby in a stroller or, someone who was your grandfather's age, you know what I mean? Like, just, it doesn't matter who they are, what they look like, what gender they are. It's just a matter of like, I acknowledge you. I see you. I'm going to say hello, good morning. Oh, you look like, I love saying to kids, are you doing something fun today? Because then they're like, yes, I am with my dad doing, especially the little girls who are dressed up in their like princess costumes. You're like, oh, you're doing something special, and mom's like, yeah, we're going to the gas station. Okay. But she's ready for an event, like I'm so excited. And I think, so let's talk about, I had mentioned like your wellness business, and I think it does go hand in hand because the little girl dressed in her princess costume to go to Costco or wherever she's going, I think that it's important for me. I know I don't want to pass a mirror or a reflection in the window and scare myself, like I like to wake up and get dressed like I'm being asked out to lunch,
exactly.
Whether I'm going out somewhere or not, like I've had somebody say, do you have appointments outside of the house today? No. Do you have a podcast interview? No, I'm just working at my desk. But in case somebody does invite me,
you're ready. That's exactly for me too. Yeah, exactly for me. And it's very true. What I found whenever I started the anti-aging business journey was I was avoiding cameras. I was avoiding the mirrors, and I just wasn't happy with the way that I was looking. And I wasn't trying to look 20.
No, I didn't think that of you.
I wasn't, trying to pick up any young guys. I'm happily married, but I just wanted to feel comfortable that I was taking care. To me, your body and your face and hair are all showing respect for yourself,
Yes.
And if you just let yourself go, if you just don't care anymore, then what else don't you care about?
Exactly.
And so I in this business where you have to be online. You have to be comfortable with doing a video And, I have these two grandboys. Am I not going to go on video with my great little boys here because I don't look good? It's like, no, and that comes back to the vulnerability. There are some great pictures of me making a fool of myself, but it's me. And so the anti-aging wellness business looks at it from your inside out, which I think is tremendous. For years and years and years, everything was apply this and you have a little bit of a Band-Aid of taking care of your wrinkles or your whatever sagginess. But not looking at the science of it, where you really need to have gut health. Yes. You really need to put back collagen. You really need to be able to have your mind, your brain focusing well. And also we have a product called Youth Factor that helps everything that you put in nutrition wise. It's like a magnet for them to regenerate and help your cells. And so all of that makes you look, feel, and live better. And so I'm 65 and I want to chase after kiddos, and I want to be able to do long walks and go places and not have, thank God, knock on wood, I don't have anything replaced yet.
Like me.
Yeah, no, my husband's got, 2 knees, a hip and 2 shoulders. And that's, he lived a fun life as he was young. Maybe I had a boring life, but I know that as we get older, those things are more fragile. And so I want to make sure that I take care of the inside out. Yeah. And I want to do it in a healthy, holistic way. And so Neora does that. And, I love whenever I have somebody that uses a product for, usually I tell you about 3 months, and they do their before and after, and it's amazing. And the company stands by the before and afters so much so that every quarter they give 3 prizes, 500, 1,000, and 1,500 or something like that, of before and afters, because the results show the difference.
Exactly.
And, so, again, I'm happy to say that I've been doing this now for 6 years or so, and I feel great, and my skin, I think, looks good for my age. Yeah. And, each time, everything that we do, all of these products, it's not a use it today, it will be okay for a couple hours, and then all of a sudden it'll come back. It's like every year, less and less of those things are there anymore. It's like my vitamin C, I had sunspots on the side, that we get from where our sunglasses don't go, and they're gone. And, I had a turkey neck coming, and I wasn't happy about that. And the firm that we have is like spandex for your skin, and gone. And so but it's like anything. It's just like public speaking. You have to use it. Yeah. You have to practice. And the more you use it, the better you get. And so again, the anti-aging wellness is just to take away another excuse for you to be the best person you can be.
Yes. And that's what Exquisitely Aligned is all about. And I think that sometimes we as women, or anyone who's nurturing, want to take care of so many other people that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And when we go down that path, then there could be times where we don't want to look in the mirror because we don't recognize who we are. We've disconnected. We've given up parts of ourselves to let someone else shine, whether it be a spouse, our children, or all of the above, or our bosses in the office, whatever that may be. And I think it's very, very important, like you said, from the inside out, with food, with what you're using on your skin, with your mindset, very much. That's why I love offering meditation still, because I think it all it all plays together. How are we nourishing ourselves each and every day so that we can use our voice and that we can show up as the bright light that you are and shining, shining unapologetically so that others can do the same, because we are vulnerable. And like you said, it's very important to get the message across that it's not that everybody has to enjoy what we say or have an aha. I mean, that would be lovely. That would be like my dream come true, that I say something and everybody who hears it has an aha. And there's more than 5 people in the room, but, at least if we're able to appear and give a voice and share stories and be vulnerable and, what's the right word? Get over fears. So let's talk about that for a little bit, because I'm guessing there was a little bit of fear or maybe intimidation for you. Fear may not be the right word, but to do the speaking that you do and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, in 1998, when I started this journey, I did not anticipate that I would ever be a speaker. I just was doing it so that I could get through to my folks that I was training and working with, and having to do those difficult conversations at review times and things like that. And then as I became a parent, being able to better communicate with my kids. But one of the things, and it is fear of rejection. It's fear of not acceptance. It's fear of failure. And we were taught that you had to be perfect in everything you did. I think one of the things, I went to modeling school for, I don't know how many months I did that, but it wasn't because I thought I was going to be a great model. I did it so I'd stop walking into things. I was a total klutz, and I thought,
Vicki, we have a lot in common.
I used to say it's from stopping walking into refrigerators. But anyway, and in that, it was a constant, that doesn't look right. The hair's not right. Your nose isn't right. This is, and it was that constant telling you that you weren't perfect. But on the other side of it was, but somebody will resonate with your look, with your nose, with your hair.
Yeah.
And so that, even though it was breaking me down a lot, it did give you some confidence. And then I just thought, well, I have not yet died from any of these adventures that I've gone on. And I purposely pushed myself to do things that I just never would have thought. I entered Mrs. Georgia when I had one child. And as it were, that was around the time that I lost the second child, but had right after that, the third. But when I entered that, I had no ideas that I was going to win that contest. But I wanted to show my little kid, my 2-year-old, going to be 3-year-old daughter, that you can do things that are outside of your comfort zone. You don't stop just because you're a mom.
Right.
You don't stop being confident and loving yourself. Right. And so it was one of the best experiences I ever had. Unlike modeling, all of these women, ages 25 or 20 through 40. Oh gosh, I think the oldest one that won the bathing suit contest was like 60. But they were all supportive. And that's where what I do today is that's my goal, is I want to be supportive. I want to raise up. I want to acknowledge and cheer on the women of the world to be able to say, I'm going to try this. And if I mess up, that's a lesson that I learned.
Right. Yeah. And, I share this story often, so I'll make it quick. But a friend of mine I think it was great great grandmother wanted different chalk for the chalkboard because the chalk was dusty and leaving residue everywhere and chalk dust. And her husband was in the petroleum business. So she asked him, see what you can make for me that I can write on the board and erase. Well, he came with a product, but it was a mistake. He couldn't get it off the chalkboard. It's the Crayola crayon. So I always tell my children, because they know her, the descendant of that family, that, you know, what we think is a mistake or a mess up or a, you know, like even if you're in front of the microphone, nobody knows what you had planned.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
My husband and I had a choreographed first dance for our wedding, and he was so nervous that between the ceremony, between the church and the reception, we went to the reception site and did the dance with our teacher. And he was like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It was a waltz. And I was like, Mark, just loosen up, have fun. Like I'm in my gown, he's in his tux. Like, this is going to be so much fun. Nobody knows that, like, very few people knew we had some lessons. So that my whole family doesn't know that this is going on, you know, nobody. So just a couple of friends. Well, anyway, you know, I said to him, if you mess up, nobody knows but the instructor and her husband, because he was there oftentimes filming us so we could see. But, you know, I was like, nobody will know. I'll just follow your lead and we'll figure it out. And, you know, like if we bring the end to the beginning and the beginning goes at the end, who cares? As long as we keep the beat. And I think that we have to have some solace, maybe the word, in the fact that nobody knows what we're presenting, or the majority of the people don't know what we had planned. And I also do believe that there's this energy, you know, our creator, God, the universe, whatever is the right word for, you know, those listening, that is protecting us, keeping us safe. So whatever is said was meant to be said or shared at that time. And even if it comes out differently than what you had imagined or planned or practiced, maybe the way you did it now is even better. Like, always remember that sometimes what we set out to do, like chalk for this chalkboard, can be a product that is through generations providing wealth and fun around the world, you know, like Crayola is, and it's not just a crayon anymore, right? So I always tell my kids, it's not a mistake. It's just something other than what you had thought you were going to achieve, you know?
Yeah. As speakers, we have to remember to, I hate memorized talks and speeches, but it's important to remember that you need to know who your audience is. And I love to go out in advance of it and just chat with some people, you know, since we already discussed, I could find out all kinds of stuff about you.
Right.
And there's sometimes that you see that what the audience needs to hear was not what you had planned to say.
Right.
But you have to be strong enough and confident enough and to be what they need to hear and say what they need to hear. And if you know your stuff well enough, you don't need anything more than bullet points about what you're going to talk about.
Exactly.
As you saw today, I mean, we have had stories rolling up that neither one of us had planned for.
Right.
It was relevant. It was what people maybe needed to hear.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what speakers need to do and understand. That's why I bought the URL. It's just a conversation, because
exactly.
It's the natural evolution of speech if you just have a conversation.
And I agree with you. And I think I told you that day, or maybe I forgot to, but it is just a conversation, and it's just even I feel like negotiating things. It's just a conversation. I tell my husband all the time, he's not really fond of negotiating, and we have something going on, something valuable that we don't use that he is ready to sell because we have had it for a while and still don't use it. And, and I said to him, you're just communicating and feeling each other out,
Exactly.
but he gets like a little twitch, but all of life is just a conversation. And sometimes the conversation is in our head. What are we hearing? Are we hearing positive thoughts or are we hearing negative? Oh, Gina, that doesn't, you passed the mirror. Oh, you said turkey neck, right? Like, oh, or this or that, whatever it might be. But like finding a way to have a better conversation in our head so that we can have the conversation out loud so that we can appear the way we want to, like you said, looking at our best self at whatever age it is, not trying to be something we're not. Because I now know you well enough. We met briefly one other time, but I got a sense right away that, you're not going to be trying to look like you're 16, because I don't think you'd feel comfortable. And I know you wouldn't feel comfortable. And it wouldn't be fun, right? When we're not comfortable, it's not fun. But there was one other thought I was going to say. But okay, it popped out of my head. But I like to, I love everything we spoke about today. You are my sunshine after a whole month of May of no sunshine. So I'm so excited to be with you today. I would love to, yes, exactly. I'd love to pull a card from the opening to possibilities. These are conversation starters that I designed. I know what I was going to say, so I'll do it while I shuffle. Years ago when I started stretching people's personal boundaries on the yoga mat and then on the paddleboard with paddleboard yoga, I would go in with a plan of what I was going to teach that day, what I was going to share, what my thought for the day was, what the poses would be. I was prepared. And what I found every time was who I thought would be in the room that day wasn't always there. Sometimes. And so I had to, on the fly, quickly, like you're talking about, pivot, be flexible as the instructor. Thank goodness I am flexible. Sometimes too bendy, and that's why my joints gave away. But anyway, to like be able to change up what I thought would be because maybe it was too hard. Or maybe it was too easy, too gentle for who appeared in the room. And I think that we have to do like you suggested all the time, like check in, whether it's I think we are 23 years. Yeah, this year will be 24 in October. But, in our marriage, you come with like, I have this great idea. And then all of a sudden you see they're looking like, I am so tired. We haven't had sunshine. You're like, oh, okay. So we're not going to be, we're going to be like laying low instead of what I had planned, or with the child, like we talked about, like I need 5 minutes to finish what I'm doing. You're more than welcome to sit in my lovely chair. Or come back in 5 minutes. I'll set a timer or you set your own timer. But so I'm going to shuffle through. I'll do one more quick thing. And then you just tell me when to stop. I'll read the word and show you the image and then give you the statement. So ready?
Go.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Stop.
Okay. Breathing.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right. It's been a lot of fun because when I design these cards, I always put energy in them to always be the right one for whoever needed it. And at the time, I didn't have a podcast, so this was not what I had in mind. But breathing, and this goes beautifully with everything we've spoken about. Long, slow breathing brings clarity to your mind. So 3 questions. Vicki, you can answer 1, 2, or all 3. You decide. How often do you breathe mindfully? How do you allow your breath to bring clarity to your mind? What happens when you're not breathing with awareness?
So for the first one, I breathe. I start my day doing breathing. And I think it is just to force me into the quiet space that I need just before I do my prayers and meditate. The second one was what again?
How do you allow your breath to bring clarity to your mind?
Okay. Well, so as I mentioned, in the morning I do, but for me, a lot of what I have done in my careers, as well as now in building my business, is I have to do problem solving. It's the puzzle of life that I have to figure out. And I find that to get my head in the right space,
Yes.
I just have to do those cleansing breaths.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the 4 at least cleansing breaths. And it's amazing how it just kind of slows your heart down and lets the blood flow where it needs to flow so that you can actually be more creative and innovative.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
But there are times, especially when you're in a difficult situation or conversation, where you might want to, your breath is kind of being sucked out of you. And you might want to say something or do something. And I think those are the times where taking a breath is so helpful. As part of the steps to prepare to speak, I do recommend the breathing. But in a situation, say something went wrong on stage and or you forgot something, your breathing will speed up and all those things. And so you have to really be aware and take that breath, whether it's audible or not.
Right.
But be able to realize that you need to get back to center.
Mm-hmm. It's very grounding, you know, giving yourself that space. And what I often tell people is most people are not even going to notice that you took a nice full inhale, you know, even with a mic on. They're just thinking, okay, she's got, you know, coming to her thought or finishing a thought or preparing for the next, and leaving that. I think back to my Zumba teaching days there was a song called Pause, and it was about the fact that the excitement is really in the pause. So if you're saying, and I can't remember the words to the song, I'd have to look it up, but it was just such the choreo was fun to it as well, but it's true, right? It's in that moment of silence that often is the aha or the connecting that we were talking about earlier when you were talking about helping the kids, you know, now I forgot the right word, but the intonation, I think you were saying.
Yeah, the tonal.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's a last question if you want to answer it. What happens when you're not breathing with awareness? I think we just actually answered that.
Yeah, we did answer that. But it was funny, just as you were talking about the pause, one of the tips that I have in my, for my app is, in my journal, was talking about power of the pause. And I teach this all the time. And whenever I'm evaluated, I often will get comments about the fact that I use the pause so well. But the pause is so much of a powerful tool. It does allow you to breathe, but it really allows the audience to catch up to what you're saying, to absorb what you're saying. And for you, sometimes that pause is really the ability for you to think, as we said, you can see in the audience how someone is reacting to what you just said. And that pause can give you a moment to think of what they need to hear next.
Right.
And and people are uncomfortable at the beginning with the silence, but it really, for me, it's second nature to use the pause. And that's what I hope for the people that I coach.
Yeah. And I also think it's important when I'm working with clients that I mentor, it's that, you know, we have to build pauses into our life as well, you know, to breathe, to have room for if somebody invites you to something that you can pick up and go, that you're not over scheduled, that you're, you know, racing in the car, driving in an unsafe manner, weaving in and out of traffic because you overbooked yourself, and not leaving extra time to have a conversation in the elevator or get off. I've done that. Oh, you're getting off. Hold on. I'll come with you to finish the conversation, and then I'll get back on, to get back to the floor that I needed to go to, just because you allow that break to connect with other people, right? I'm guessing you may have done the same thing. You're like, this is just so much fun. We should actually skip work and go have breakfast. I've thought that too. Never did it, but have thought that. But
I think it's important, though, that parents think about what we're just talking about, because especially this time of year, summer, and the parents think I have to schedule every minute of my kids' time in the summer. And in doing that, we're not teaching them that it's okay to have nothing to do.
Exactly.
That they can be able to understand how to use quiet time to read a book and not be like, oh God, I can't read a book because there's 50 other things I need to do. I always tell people that I love to hang with my grandsons and just look at the clouds.
Yes. I love throwing out a towel and oh, look at that formation. Sometimes we're at the beach and it's like, oh, Mark, they're really getting interesting. They're crossing each other now, look at this. But it's so important. I'm glad you brought that up. Summertime, anytime. I think that oftentimes everybody schedules everything out so rigidly is the word that's coming, but that's not what I was picturing, but I'll use it because it came to me. But, I'm not right. There's always two extremes, right? So you're not asking somebody to be lazy and not do anything in a day, but to leave freedom in a schedule. My kids did not go to daycare, so they were with me all the time. And I liked them just doing pretend play.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Just be creative. They actually had a restaurant. My father made them a podium, which we still have for the front of their restaurant. They had empty wine bottles, which one of my friends thought was awful that I gave them a wine bottle. I was like, you do realize it's empty, and I'm not promoting drinking too much wine, but it's and then they made themselves menus. My son went online and got himself a free point of sale, a POS for a restaurant, like a trial. I was like, oh my God, how much did you pay for this? No, I got it for free, Mom. Don't worry. But so it was interesting to see what they could figure out. I bought them melamine. Is that how you say it? The plastic plates and some expensive silverware so they could have. Then they started collecting containers, they had stuff for the kitchen, like a sour cream container, a milk container. It was very funny. But I always think it's nice to, even as adults, plan some time that maybe you're in town, Vicki, and you call me and say, hey, we're at the beach, come meet us, because, or you see the weather is so lovely, we hope, but, and you're like, hey, hon, let's go for a walk. We have this free time, but it's so important, that pause. It's so important, the voice. It's so important being authentic. And so, Vicki, you were so delightful. I'm so glad we met. And that's the other thing I should say is podcasting or speaking or telling your story, if it's about a miscarriage, to a mom's group, no matter what it is, no matter what your age, no matter your gender, all of these things help you feel more alive and connect you with so many other fascinating people that I feel like you make these connections for life. Yeah. And so whatever is on your, maybe rolling around in the back of your head, I wish I could do what Vicki's doing or what Gina's doing. I feel like try it. And
Yeah.
like we said, be vulnerable and know that there are never any mistakes. It's just something other than what you had planned. And who knows, it may be the next Crayola crayon. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let us find out, do let us know. So Vicki, all of your contact information is going to be beneath. But if you want to give a couple, like your website, so forth, and if you have something to offer today, I'd like to give you time.
So we always ask you to go to my website, which has my podcast and different courses that I have. So it's www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. And so for those that are listening in, I actually have a 3-day, just 2 hours a day in July, a course called Polish Your Delivery. I took my 6-week course, and in the summer I thought, well, we don't really have 6 weeks to be able to share, but maybe you could choose 3 days in July to polish your delivery. So I have that. And if you message me at vnoethling@gmail.com, first initial, last name @gmail.com, and say, I want to go to your Polish Your Delivery course on July 14, 15, and 16, I will send you a link and a code to get it for free.
Woo! Wonderful. Well, thank you for your generous offer. And I love the title. And I think that when we do polish different things about ourselves, even our skin with our, exfoliants and so forth, it helps us do everything that we've spoken about. And I'm going to just mention again, Purpose, Possibilities, and Prosecco, a 2-hour private transformation, has been doing so well that I want to open it up to each of you. And it combines face reading for your life's purpose with mentoring, all in 2 hours, to give you that boost that you may be desiring or wanting, not only for your career, but also in your life. And with that, Vicki, thank you again. You're a true delight. You have been my sunshine today. We have so many things in common. It makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I was called the klutz when I was a child. I always had black and blues. I didn't need eyeglasses until I was an adult. So it was just me bumping into things. Maybe my head was in the clouds. I don't know. But
I don't know. I can't tell from your sitting, but I'm 5'9" and
well, no, I'm only 5'6". So
But for mine, I thought it was just I grew up too fast and long legs.
Yes. Well, I was always one of the taller of the kids at a certain point, but then of course everyone, kind of outgrew me, but I don't know what it was. I guess I wasn't looking where I was going. I was having fun. I was checking out something else, and I still do that. But anyway, so till next time, be exquisite.